Hello, I'm Mike Higgins, my wife Joyce.
We're Tom and Susan Lincolnwalder.
My name is Bob Serbel.
Okay, my name is Karen Burchett.
Cindy and Bill Dover.
Hey, we're Veronica and Tony Houston.
I'm Ed Purcell, and this is my wife Judy.
Hi, I'm Jim Russell, and this is my wife Mary.
We're here to share some memories of the beginning of Holy Spirit. At the very beginning, a friend and Huebner and I were talking, and we were both Catholics, and we didn't have activities for our kids except at the Protestant churches in Duncanville. And she and I were just talking over coffee one day, and our kids were playing, and we said, we need a church out here. But at that time, we were both going to St. Elizabeth in Oak Cliff, and there wasn't a priest there at the time. It was kind of between priests. And so she and I decided that a good way to jumpstart a new parish would be to start having some potluck suppers in Duncanville at the local Lions Club. So we started calling people that we knew that went to St. Elizabeth but lived in Duncanville. And we said, let's meet for a supper and talk about this. So we all brought a dish and brought our kids, and we did that for 2 or 3 months. And each time we met, our numbers were like doubling. So we knew there were a lot of people, and it wasn't even in our thought anything about Cedar Hill or DeSoto. We were just kind of focused on our little family and the fact that we would like a church in our town. So we decided during that time period when the bishop had not assigned anybody as a pastor yet for St. Elizabeth, that we would have the suppers, and after we saw the numbers, the minute the new priest was assigned at St. Elizabeth, she and I decided to go and visit him. And that was Father Joe Erbrick. And we found out by doing a little background through friends around the diocese that he grew up in a large family, but that he was older. So she and I got babysitters, and we didn't take our kids that day, and we had tea with Father Erbrick, and we just basically begged him. And we just said, Father, you're our only hope. And I think because he was a tender-hearted man, you know, he was just like, I'll help you do this, you know, and what more could we ask? And so he said, let me talk to the bishop, so give me a couple of weeks, and let me see what his thoughts are. And I remember I went home, I told Tom, Father Joe Erbrick is gonna help us get a parish. And so we just thought that was that, and it would just happen quick. That was, I guess, around Thanksgiving, and we called him and said, could we come? Have you gotten any information from the bishop? Can we come talk to you again? And he said, yes, come on and come. And so that day we had lunch with him in the rectory, and it was tea party sandwiches. And he had the lady that made some meals for him make little sandwiches. We had a little tea party. She and I were just excited that he was going to help us. He said, well, this might be a little more involved than you gals know. And so we said, just tell us what to do. He said, well, the bishop said they are aware that there is a need out in the Tri-City area. And we're like, well, what do you mean the Tri-City area? So that's when he said, Cedar Hill and DeSoto. And we're like, wow, okay then, you know. So we were all for whatever we need to do. And he said, well, the next thing you need to do is go see the bishop yourselves. And so I had known Bishop Shapey since I was a little girl. In fact, in his first assignment as a pastor. And so I wasn't the least intimidated, just, okay, that's what we need to do.
In September 1971, Catholics from the Duncanville area, led by Susan Lichtenwalter, began investigating the possibility of establishing a parish to serve the people of southwest Dallas County. Susan and a small group met with Bishop Thomas Chapey at the offices of the Diocese of Dallas. A meeting on December 9th, 1971, led to the formation of a steering committee to establish the new parish. The members of that committee were Jim McDonald, Bob Hart, Ed Purcell, John Cole, Ann Hubner, and Susan Lichtenwalter.
In that first meeting, he was very understanding of our need for a parish, and he promised us he would think it over. But he said, aren't there any men out there where y'all live? And I'm like, well, my husband's a convert, her husband's not even Catholic, and all the men are at work. They can't take off in the day and come downtown. He's like, oh, let's be sure on our numbers. So he said, go see if you can get a little group and y'all meet with Father Erbrick again and get a game plan of what you think you can take in to support renting a building. So when we actually got to go as a little committee, we gathered up some of the men in town and like Ed Purcell and Bob Hart. We said, it's a guy's world. He's wanting the guys to come on. So they said, okay, we'll go if you gals do the talking. I said, we're ready. So we got to go before Christmas. And one of the first things that after we got our meeting with the bishop, and that time Monsignor Ray Kemper was also there. And they said, we'll let you start having CCD classes. That was Father Erbrick's recommendation. Let's just do that for a few months and see what the actual numbers are. And the way we got the word out was honest. There was nothing but word of mouth, putting things in the local newspaper and calling people and going to their house. We knocked on doors. Basically, we were asking them for financial support and to start coming to participate. And we didn't even have a mass yet.
We arrived in Duncanville in 73. We had both just been discharged from the military. We served with the 93rd Evac Hospital, and basically we came to Duncanville because a friend of mine who was practicing in Garland said, I've got just the spot for you. We're going to stick you in Duncanville. There's nobody there. Well, there's a guy there, but anyway, he's only there one day a week. So he said, we're going to get you in Duncanville. We need to get some people there. And that's how we wound up coming to Duncanville. Okay. And we started setting up the practice, and the parish was just beginning. And we made the second mass at the high school, at Central Elementary. We were at the second mass and went on from there. And
even before that, we met Ed Purcell on our honeymoon.
Yeah.
We came down here to check out the area.
And
he said, wait, we're going to have a parish here by the time you get here. Sure enough.
Transferred here with my job in 1973. And at that time, we rented a house in Duncanville, went to Holy Spirit for a short while, and then found out that they were having a mass in,
St. Elizabeth's.
oh, I mean, St. Elizabeth.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I was younger then. I wasn't having any senior moments. And found out that they were having a mass at the elementary school. That lasted just a short while and then moved to Reed. At that time, we had Father Bob Sikora that was assigned to the mission out here. And we had a lot of fundraisers, different things. For instance, everybody that had a garden got up on a Sunday morning and big vegetables and brought it and we sold it in front of the church out there.
Bud and our 4 girls aged 11 to 5 moved from Oregon and Washington. 1972, we arrived in Dallas on June 19th, and we moved into our house shortly after that. I think it was August. And after we moved into the house, Sue Slayback knocked on our door and said that they were forming a parish, and was wondering if I would be interested in coming to a meeting. And I said, oh yes, definitely, because we started at St. Elizabeth's. So I went to the meeting and I signed up that I was an organist. And so we had our first Mass at Central Elementary on September 3rd, 1972. And Maria Dellinger was playing. So afterwards, I went up to her and I said, you know, I signed up to play, you know. And she says, oh, the steering committee thought that you didn't play the piano because you put down organist. I said, well, you have to play the piano in order to play the organ. She says, you've got it. So I started playing then in the second Mass. And then when Bob Sikora was our pastor in 1974, he wanted a choir. And so and of course I played all the Masses, but he wanted a choir. So I started to form a choir, and I didn't know who was going to direct. I couldn't find anybody. And he said, well, you can do that. And I said, I've never directed before, you know, but I've been in choir, you know, at school and everything. So I got Susan Allen to play for me. She was 16 years old. And we formed a choir, and we had to practice in my home. Had to set up the chairs all the time and take them down and the whole bit. And at Central Elementary, the guys always had to bring the chairs in because there was no chairs there. Nobody did anything for them. And my husband, Bud, and somebody else, where they were stored in somebody's shed, he'd gone out of town and left them a key and everything so they could go and, well, they showed up that day to get the chairs, and the neighbors called and sent out the cops. So they told them, you know, the story, and that he had permission to take all the chairs. Anyway, we were on several committees, and women's club and men's club, and did everything. At one point I thought we were Mr. and Mrs. Holy Spirit, like some others. And so my choir grew, and Bill Nealon was our first song leader. We didn't have cantors until like the 80s, I believe they called them cantors. And so he led the songs, and then when Mary Russell came, she helped and led the songs. And of course, then by that time we had moved to Reed Junior High, and it was wonderful because we didn't have to do anything, just went in there and took over.
When we moved to Duncanville. But prior to that, we lived in Oak Cliff. We attended, Blessed Sacrament Parish. And then when we bought a house in Duncanville, we first attended St. Elizabeth. And then when we were in Duncanville, like I think Joyce has reminded me that I was out in the garage doing some automotive repair work. And a fellow named Bud Burchett showed up at our house. I got called in, tried to clean myself up a little bit. We sat and we talked, and he spoke very highly, and he seemed to be very highly of the church that we're trying to get started. And he was very friendly, personable fellow, and he was through all the years that I knew him. And he was selling us raffle tickets. Mm-hmm. And that was actually my first contact with the Holy Spirit.
When it was time to put our children in religious ed, which is now faith formation, we went to St. Elizabeth's to enroll there. And they told us that we had another choice. We could go to Duncanville, and it was a mission. And we thought, well, that's closer, that's great. So that's how we chose it. And we've been happy and ever since. And then I was lonely and I was sad because I didn't know anybody. And so the best thing to do is to volunteer. And so I volunteered to bring the coffee and the donuts over to center. But we didn't have a big car. And so of course it didn't fit in the back with, we had 3 children at the time. No, we had 2 children. 2 children at the time. And to try to get in and, set up outside and then put it up and bring it, because everything had to be brought. And so that was another experience, but I got to know more people that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got involved in that way. It was for the longest time, there were 3 recognized Catholics in Duncanville, Ed Purcell, Jim McDonald, and then I became the 3rd one.
That were very
because we were community involved, and there weren't any other Catholics that were really involved in the community at that time. Mm-hmm.
The community itself was something else. It was so welcoming. Especially like once we moved to the junior high, they served the coffee and donuts then out on in front of the school. And the first mass that I went to there, are you coming here next week? And my schedule was such that I could. Okay, you've got coffee and donuts. Go to such and such's house, you can get the coffee pot then. You were, I won't say sucked in, you were drawn in from the very beginning of, okay, we need you. And people came in, and we were a really young parish then too. So people were, not everybody, but a lot of young families with little kids, lots of little kids around. And there were just so many opportunities to get to know people and to get closer to God through other people. They used to have daily mass. We did not have a rectory here. Even before the church was built, we didn't have a rectory here. We had a rectory in Duncanville on Greenstone Lane, and they had daily masses in the garage. And we got to know each other really well. And there were some older Catholics, like Anna Magala, who would explain to us how we are supposed to be Catholic. I don't know. She was an exquisite gift, but she was a lady from France and Poland and fought in the resistance during World War II. And she and her husband were part of the parish, and they shared their history. The history kept coming through of all these different people that had these wondrous tales to share. And a lot of them were so faith-based that it just fit in with church.
During that time, we began to realize what all does it take to have Mass besides the priest's little doctor bag with the basic goodies. And so one of the plumbers from the area, John Pacifica from Cedar Hill, he said, well, I can make an altar out of a door, and I could put plumbing pipe on as legs, and that way we could knock it down fast when our time is up. And then you ladies can sew some altar cloths. So we did. In fact, we made the first altar cloths out of white sheets, and some of the ladies that were good at embroidered on them, and we had 2 altar cloths. So if we had a spill or anything, we had a clean one waiting, and we made all our little altar linens out of white sheets.
Oh, the altar cloth, I forgot. We decided it would be a neat thing for the people who helped to build the church to that point to sign it. And we signed in pencil, and the ladies who knew how to embroider, they embroidered the names on that. I'm not sure, I don't remember who did the outline of the Holy Spirit emblem that's there in the front. Maybe Pat Barozak had done that, maybe. I do know we had a near catastrophe. I was busy with the cake with Sylvia Lyons. That was my job. We did that. Pat, with her skill in crafts and embroidery and stuff, was in charge of the altar cloth. Washed it one time. Well, the colors ran out of that big Holy Spirit. So it was a big scramble, and the only thing they could do was cut it out and piece it in. So that's the reason it has the raised effect, if anybody is wondering why that piece in the middle looks the way it does.
Okay, Bud was, and Jean Slayback were assigned from Father Sikora to become extraordinary ministers because he just couldn't give communion to that many people. And of course, I think they were about the first ones in the diocese. And so he made them wear albs. Jean said that one day he tried his on, and Sue says, "Oh, I don't know if I want my husband in an alb." It was funny. Anyway, they served, and of course then eventually, people accepted them.
Monsignor Joseph Erbrick from St. Elizabeth's nurtured the community that would become Holy Spirit. First, in-home CCD classes were established, and Mass was celebrated at Central Elementary School in Duncanville on Sunday, September 3rd, 1972, leading to the establishment of St. Elizabeth's Mission of Duncanville, DeSoto, and Cedar Hill. In 1973, the mission was named Holy Spirit. Within 6 months, on June 16, 1974, Pentecost Sunday, a parish under the leadership of Father Bob Sikora was established.
Actually, my wife was the first secretary and the only unpaid employee for Holy Spirit for 2 years. We started out at Central Elementary, and we bought a house on Greenstone Lane, which was our headquarters. So Faye was the sole occupant of that house, and she handled all the questions while the parish grew to be about, well, it was a mission, not a parish then, but it grew to be about 250 people or total. And Faye knew the phone numbers by memory of all those 250 people. So that was the start of it. Yeah, Faye did it all. There was no priest. A lot of people called her Father Faye. Some people would come in and say, "Could you hear my confession today?" And she'd have to explain that, she wasn't qualified to hear confessions, but she would pass them on to the right person.
But I remember, attending Mass at Reed Junior High in the auditorium. And also I remember the day that Father Bob Sikora announced that we had officially become a parish. And it was a very joyous event. We got, from the reaction, I remember from the congregation there, we had quite a few people. We had filled the auditorium, pretty well. And the other thing I liked about it, I was able to participate in several things. One of the first things, I got to be an usher. I was recruited for that. And got to meet a few people. I remember Mike Stevens, Ed Purcell, who was instrumental in many things.
Right. Well, one of the things that we did when we were at Reed, we voted on the name of the church. That Father Bob Sikora, he had a church, a little white church made, and it had a slot in it. And so he said, when you come in on Sunday, you know, you write down the name that you want for the church and put it in. And they said, he pulled out the name Holy Spirit along with some other names, but because he was saying the name of a novena to the Holy Spirit, then that was the name that they chose for the parish.
In March 1975, a 12-acre site was purchased to be the home of the new church in Duncanville. Bishop Chapey participated in the groundbreaking on February 15th, 1976.
Of course, I was delighted to know that we were finally going to have our own parish, and we had a site picked out, which I think is where the present Costco store is, and somewhere along the line we had a meeting and decided that wasn't the best site for us, and I got to help pick out the site for it, which is pretty close to my house, coincidentally. So and I said, this is a much better site, and it proved to be a good place. It's off the main highway a little bit.
And when they finally decided they were going to dedicate the property for the church, it was a big gathering, big celebration. Didn't they haul the bells out there? Yeah.
I think the bells were out there, yeah.
Yeah, they hauled them out there.
Bishop Chafee was there with his hard hat on.
And he had a backhoe. I think it was furnished by one of the members. And you saw him digging up for the groundbreaking. And I would like Bishop Chafee. He was very involved, very personable bishop. But yeah, that was. We had some pictures of that, and so that was quite an experience. That's one thing I really loved about being a member of Holy Spirit. There was never any shortage of something to do or to get involved in, and you felt welcome to do anything you could do to help.
Well, we had a picnic out on the field first, before we even started building, and we didn't know, we sat in the grass and everything, and of course that weekend for Mass we were all itching. we didn't know anything about chiggers, so we called the property Chigger Heaven. Anyway, but I can remember having a stage, and Bishop Chafee was there when we kind of started building, and we sang songs and everything.
And they had just cleared the land for the new building, and they had the stakes out. And Father Johnson went out there with me because I went to the rectory and said, I want to go see, where the new church is going to be. I'll take you. So he drove and I followed him out there, and then we just walked around and said, this is going to be my house, and this is going to be the sanctuary area, and just going up in there and then walking and trying to imagine the direction the church building was going to face. But Father said, if there's any workers there, I don't want anybody on the property. And we were good. But we would drive down the street and just park on Daniel Dale and look from the edge. But then if there were no workers there, we would sneak up on there and just walk all around the perimeter walk. I remember when they poured the forms, and it was an exciting time.
I can't let this interview go without big thanks to Joe and Agnes Persifka. I know they're enjoying their reward in heaven, because if it hadn't been for them, Holy Spirit wouldn't be here. And the Harkin Riders, without their help. We were poor, so we couldn't contribute a lot of money. But we did, well, we couldn't contribute in money. We tried to contribute in other ways. They
were the ones that eventually grabbed the bull by the horns and got things done because Joe owned a plumbing supply company and had access to a lot of equipment and instrumental in getting the bells installed, a lot of the construction work, the plumbing, all the plumbing. Another person that we met along the way were Bill and Kathy Fauché. And he was also in construction, and he was the one that was responsible for building the rectory.
He built the rectory.
He built the rectory, right. So those are folks who did much more than we ever did. And
Pacifica family did more than anybody. We wouldn't have had a church if we didn't have Pacifica. They were, you know, he got the bells and all that stuff from the bishop, and he and his boys put it up. So we wouldn't have had the church if we hadn't had Pacifica, because he did. That was his whole life. And the boy did his. So he had a company that he could work in. The boys did all that other stuff.
On the groundbreaking, I remember going, but it was hot, you know, and I'm standing at a distance. But
With a couple of kids.
yes, holding on to my children, you know, let's behave. And but I was excited about the future for us, because I knew that was the beginning, and it was very, very special. And I wondered what the future would bring for us, because it was an unknown, and I was very excited about that.
I remember our first pastor was Father Bob Sakura, and the second one was Monsignor Robert Johnson. And I'm not sure which one it was, but it was one or the other, because it was either just before Father Sakura left or just after Monsignor Johnson took over. But they decided that we needed to have a mass on the property. Now, we didn't have a church built yet, and down at the far end of the current large parking lot, there were a couple of trees and a grassy area, and Father decided that this would be the place where the mass would be. He didn't check it out too thoroughly, however, and we got there, and people were standing around because there were no chairs and nobody was going to kneel this particular day. And we discovered that the area was infested with fire ants. So we spent the Mass pretty well stomping around trying to keep the fire ants off us. And it was a rather short service, I will believe. The next one was, I think, next time we were out there, we were actually in the building. There were no pews in the sacristy yet. They were still working on it. But we had Mass in the narthex on the cement floor.
That's right. But it still is all just the beginning. It was so exciting to finally be in the church. And what a nice side thing, Matthew was one of the first ones that was baptized. But it was on Greenstone at the rectory when we had little altar there and everything. You could go to Mass there too.
Yeah, in the garage.
In the garage, yeah. But anyway, so that was very special to us.
And the church was originally, we were told, it was designed to reflect a Spanish flavor. And that's why the walk goes around the center grassy area. And the idea was that different buildings that we would need would be built around the walk. That was before we built the community center on the other side of the building.
As you go in, you're supposed to start remembering where you're going. And I like that when I heard that comment about them, that as you walk in by the arches and going in, you would realize that you were going to church and it was something special.
Yeah, originally we had the bells in the bell tower were manually rung, but Father kept getting complaints from the neighborhood about people ringing the bells at all hours of the day and night. So we got with some of the parish members who could do it and arranged to have them electronically controlled. And it took a while, a couple of years before they got that fixed, but at least now they do. But there are holes there where the ropes came through. You know? And that's why the holes are there, because they were originally to hold the bell ropes.
The men's club was a vital part of our startup. You know, they did as the process continued. We bought the property. We did cleanup on the property. When the construction started, we planted the trees in the courtyard and improved the grounds. The men's club was really the heart and soul of the guys in the parish. They do social things. We go camping and lake trips and everything together to build unity. And the big driving force in that was Joe Pacifica. He was sort of the glue to held the whole thing together.
The exciting things for me was when they told me that they had been given the windows from the old church in Dallas. I drove over into Dallas. I think it was called St. Joseph. It was in the downtown Dallas area, and they were going to tear a building down, and they were going to give us the little stained glass windows out of there. And I drove to Dallas just by myself because I just wanted to see the windows. Oh my gosh! But I thought they were going to install the window in holes, and they said, "Oh no, the windows are too delicate because they're so old and fragile. They're going to put windows and then put it in front so that if anything struck the window from the rear, it wouldn't get the little stained glass." But I was excited. And the other exciting thing for me was the organ that they were going to get. I was shocked how big the organ and the pipes, those were wow moments for me, yeah. There were a couple of parishes in Dallas that had big pipe organs at the time, but not many. And I can remember going, St. Monica has one that's got big pipes. And I just couldn't even believe that was going to be in our parish. I was picturing the piano that we had at the schools for music. And Karen Burchett actually is who told me about the pipe organ. She said, "Oh no, we're going to have a pipe organ." You're kidding me. So those were big, oh wow moments for me.
You know, we had a committee small committee from the choir members that I know Bob Dacker was on it and myself and I think Kay Sikora was. Of course, she was, had another name at that time. But we investigated several different organ builders, and we chose Carl Betcher and Sons. And so they were young guys too, because and their dad had died, so they had taken over, and we had the organ built. And the first time I played it was in 1978 when I was pregnant with our son. And I got on the organ, and it was like, the choir says, "That's like 5 pianos compared to the piano, because of the acoustics and everything." It was really, but it was thrilling. And the boys, some of the choir members helped load all those pipes in and helped Carl Betcher. And then, of course, when we were able to move into the narthex to start having our choir practices, we had to set chairs up in there beforehand because, and then of course when we got actually into the church, then they didn't have pews yet, they had just the chairs. And it was just a really exciting time to see everything. And we all worked so hard and donated so much money and everything in order to get that church built, you know.
Well, the first nest there was wonderful for everybody.
Right.
Whether they were in the beginning or they come in later,
Yeah.
that was magnificent
Right.
because it had finally arrived.
We need to realize, just like I did way back when we first started here, the way to get to know everybody is to volunteer. And we need to get that back in, because since COVID, we've lost that. And we need to realize it really supports you and makes you feel better, but also gets you into a group of new friends and everything as you're helping.
Yeah, I think the current parish and future parish need to realize and appreciate what was done for them, and to carry on the work that the original families did to get a church out in Duncanville that would serve Duncanville, Cedar Hill, and DeSoto. It's community, and I agree with Mary.
Looking back at 50 years here, said my perspective is very much family, but it's also a lot tied into meals. The meals that we ate inside, the picnics, the gatherings. Holy Spirit for me has always been family. It has been rather a large family, but it has been my family. And that also crosses over to the sacraments, because when we went in for Mass, Eucharist was another family meal celebration. And it just it colored everything. They flowed back and forth from one to the other. And if I were going to say, I'd say family, and I'd say we break bread together.
Meals were a definite part of the thing. Our parish was just like an army. It went on its stomach. If you were full, it was much easier to get things done. And if I were going to use one word to describe the evolution of the parish and us in the parish, it would be blessing. We were blessed to have many people, some of them only for a short period of time, but at the right time to get things done. And we pretty well have passed that on.
One thing I really loved about being a member of Holy Spirit, there was never any shortage of something to do or to get involved in, and you felt welcome to do anything you could do to help.
And our hope is that whatever is going on with the next generation, that those people in their 30s and 40s will pick up, and do great things for the parish.
Happy 50th, Holy Spirit.
Happy 50th, Holy
Happy
Spirit.
50th, Holy Spirit.
Happy 50th, Holy Spirit. I never thought I'd be here for this.
Happy 50th, Holy Spirit.
Happy 50th, Holy Spirit.
Happy 50th, Holy Spirit. God bless you. God bless all the people that are still there.
Happy 50th anniversary, Holy Spirit.